Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Witch's Shield, Protection, Magic, and Psychic Self-Defense by Christopher Penczak, narrated by Leslie Howard. Publisher's note: this audiobook includes bonus material. Please visit Tantor.com and type The Witch's Shield into the search box. Follow the link to the book's page. Then, under the Supplemental Content section, please enter the access code WITCH, and then click the Unlock button to access the bonus material. The code should be entered in all lowercase letters. All figures referenced in this audiobook can be found in the bonus material. Introduction. The Witch's Shield is the first in a series of books designed to bring the magical classroom directly to your home. I receive a lot of letters and email from people who wish to attend my classes or other magical classes, but don't have access to them. They often want to take online classes or correspondence courses, which I don't currently offer. I like to teach in person, to directly guide students and lead them through the experiences of meditation and ritual. The biggest complaint about metaphysical books that I receive from people is the inability to do the meditations and exercises because they feel uncomfortable, lack confidence, and, in general, feel they lack the proper guidance to do them alone. Even those who have taken a class have difficulty recreating the experience at home. For students with such problems, I have created this series of witchcraft books. The Witch's Shield is based on one of my most popular classes in protection, magic, and psychic defense. Everyone seems to want protection, but very few people feel centered and protected in their personal power. A controversial point about writing any protection magic book is that in order to teach readers how to understand and defend themselves from any type of attack, the author first has to explain the mechanism by which one can do an attack. But I strongly feel that imparting the knowledge of psychic protection outweighs the risk of revealing the methods of psychic attack. Like martial artists, one must understand the attack forms in order to become a competent defender. Witches, pagans, and magicians take my protection, magic, and psychic defense course, but many people involved in other arts take it too, from aspiring shamans to dream workers. In The Witch's Shield, I outline and expand upon the basic steps of psychic defense, which the foundation materials found in other traditions and courses often lack. As part of my take-home class, this book contains the essence of my lecture and class discussion. Without a group, you can miss out on the discussion and sharing experiences that enrich a workshop. So I highly suggest that you reflect on each of the chapters. If you can, study the lessons with a friend or group of friends so you can share your experiences. I wish you much love, guidance, joy, and protection as you walk the path of the wise, the path of the witch, regardless of the path or tradition you follow. You don't have to give up your own path or identity to carry the witch's shield of perfect love and perfect trust into life with you. Blessed be, Christopher Penczak. Chapter 1. Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? Why do we need protection magic? Many magical rituals, first and foremost the witch's circle, have strong elements of protection in their wording, even if the spell is for love, money, or healing. So invariably someone asks, why do we need protection? What's out there to get us? Is this magic dangerous? Unfortunately, there are no easy answers to these questions. Thoughts turn to Hollywood horror films of demons, devils, and evil spirits. Such propaganda and stereotypes, which were perpetuated during the Dark and Middle Ages by the dominant religion, and then brought to life through movie special effects, poison the magical heart. They prevent us from feeling the magical rhythms of life. By our very nature, as embodiments of the divine, we seek a magical life, but few of us ever find it or believe it is really possible because of the exaggerated horrors perpetuated over the last 2,000 years by religious leaders, reductionist science, and the media. This disconnection from the magic of life is one of the great problems facing the world today. Regardless of their personal spiritual path, most people don't feel connected to the patterns and cycles of life, and therefore can ignore the destruction we face as a species. Without the magical life, as portrayed in the highest arts of witchcraft and paganism, humanity does not assume the role of caretaker, guardian, and partner with nature. Lack of this crucial identity has led to the current spiritual crisis, and at the heart of this problem is our fear of the magical. We, as a society, call the magical world the occult. The word occult has garnered sinister implications. Be aware if your kids are involved in the occult, they are turning to evil forces. I remember that when I was a teenager, my parents were told by a good God-fearing woman that my interest in science fiction, fantasy, and role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons would turn me to the devil because they were part of the occult. But these outlets were the only things that fed my magical soul. Even though they are fiction and not true magic, such books, art, and music can sustain people who are seeking a magical life, even if they don't know precisely what they are seeking. New Age books in stores were not readily available when I was a teenager, and even if they were, I was not in a place to appreciate them. I was brainwashed by society to believe that at best, such things are only fantasy and folklore that have no basis in real experiences, or at worst, that these games and books are tools of the devil. Witches and pagans believe that the devil is a construct of the Christian church, gathered from many different mythologies and given a medieval spin doctor treatment to use fear to force conversion and give the institution of the church a scapegoat when things did not go according to plan. The pagans were bullied into accepting Christianity because they were told that their gods were evil spirits, and in particular that the horned gods of the land and animals were devils. The concept of ultimate good and ultimate evil has no place in paganism, as it has no place in nature. Life is too complex for such judgmental polarities. As a witch, I learned that one does not fear the god and goddess, but loves and respects them, building a personal relationship with them through meditation, nature, and magic. We could never use the excuse that the devil tempted us, since regardless of our motivations, we are wholly responsible for our actions and their consequences. We don't believe in a devil who tempts us. The word occult is not synonymous with the word evil. It means hidden or obscured from view, and refers to information that is not generally known, found, or easy to understand. All the mystical arts are traditionally the province of those few who are interested in them. Most people are worried about day-to-day survival and fulfillment, and have less interest in intensive introspection, meditation, and spirituality, which are the keys to a rewarding mystical practice in any tradition. The occult is the mystery of life that must be brought into view to be understood. We call magic, psychic abilities, divination, and spirit work supernatural. But what does that mean? Supernature is the natural world in its most heightened magical state. The word supernatural connotes something out of this world and unnatural. It is anything but. When one taps into the supernatural, one is tapping into the primal nature that runs through everything and everyone. That is divinity in action. There is nothing more natural than magic, for it is our human partnership with the natural forces. The root word of witch, Wicca, is usually translated as to bend or shape, which refers to the gentle bending, shaping, and partnering with the tides of life. Fear of magic is really the fear of our own personal power and responsibility. It is usually easier to give such things away, to an institution, religion, or society, but such a lack of awareness leads to an imbalance. We have covered this imbalance with our many images of the boogeyman, the mysterious evil force, the devil, or archetypal big bad wolf knocking at our door, threatening our lives. Even our fear-based images are ripe with our disconnection from the truth. Darkness is the symbol of life, the womb of the goddess. The horned pagan gods are often protectors and fathers. The wolf is a powerful totem animal of protection. If we knew these magical realities, our fears would dissolve away. The truth of the matter is that magic, ritual, and spell work is no more dangerous than walking across the street. If you live in a busy city, that could be fairly dangerous, yet you still do it. The key is safety. All things in life carry some inherent risks. If anyone tells you otherwise, they are lying. You never know for certain where danger can come from, but you don't let that fear prevent you from living your life. When you cross the street, you look both ways. You watch the lights and stay alert. If you do this, then you most likely will have a safe experience crossing the street. If you don't, then you might have an accident. Magic is the same way. The majority of the time, all is safe. If you are educated and careful, you will be fine. Protection and psychic defense are like having the tools you need in case things don't go according to your plan. Ideally, you will never need them, but like a good Boy Scout or Girl Scout, you are prepared. They are skills you will learn, possess, and grow with, and soon they will become second nature to your magical way of life. You will live a protected magical life always, wherever you go. The horror stories I hear at times are from people with no education in magic who attempt complex spells they read about somewhere by jumping to the back of a book, rather than doing all the preliminary work to prepare for it. If they perform one spell that works well, they feel they are advanced or gifted and don't need to do any preliminary work. They may be gifted, but that's no way to learn an art, science, and spiritual path. You have to have all three aspects in balance, along with any talent you have. It's like saying you successfully walked blindfolded across a busy street once, so you automatically assume that since you were safe that one time, you will always be safe. That's just asking for trouble. Is psychic attack real? Yes, psychic attack is real. That's the easy answer. It is real because we experience it as real. And that is the bottom line to someone who is experiencing a psychic attack. Being in the profession of a public witch and teacher, I've gotten many calls from clients over the years who were certain that someone had cursed them. I noticed a pattern. So many people felt their misfortune was someone else's fault. They would not even consider the idea that perhaps their own thoughts and feelings were coming into play, that they were partners in the creation of their own misery. Nope. It was someone else's fault, and it was my job to fix it for them. I don't fix things for people. I help them transform and protect themselves. One of the ways I do this is by teaching techniques so you can be protected anytime. One of my favorite bits of wisdom is from the famous Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. I try to apply that to all my work. When I first taught the workshop on which this book is based, I started by trying to break this blame game, victim, and fix-it mentality. I began by saying that 90% of all psychic attacks are not attacks, but rather self-created illusions. Though this is true, it doesn't help the person experiencing the attack. My tough love approach is not the best approach when one is experiencing a psychic attack and doesn't know what to do. We currently live in a society that is often fix-it and victim-oriented, and our natural reaction is to have someone take care of things when they go wrong. If you don't realize you are actively involved in any psychic attack experience you perceive, then how can you be expected to fix it yourself? It is only when you experience it for yourself that you can sympathize with others who experience it. With that in mind, I found that the majority of psychic attacks, curses, and hauntings were not what they appeared to be at first glance. Humans as a whole tend to jump to conclusions to support their own biases or fears. It takes awareness, introspection, and spiritual techniques to determine what is occurring and how best to resolve it. Through this work, we will practice these techniques together. Attracting attention. Why do those involved in magic, occultism, witchcraft, and healing seem to have more than their share of psychic attack experiences and a greater need for protection magic than ordinary people who seem to get along fine without it? A common assumption is that people involved in the magical arts are a little wacky, paranoid, or delusional, but usually that is not the case. Those of us involved in magical practices have spent time expanding our awareness and sensitivity to subtle, unseen energies. Most people have little conscious perception of the subtle energies permeating us in our environments. I firmly believe that almost anyone can perceive the subtle, but we are simply not encouraged in mainstream society to develop these skills. Some people are naturally inclined to sense subtle energies and seek training in traditions such as witchcraft to help them cope with this expanded awareness. Witches, magicians, and shamans also attract more attention from the unseen forces. One teacher describes magical ability as being like a flame. Most people radiate an average amount of light from their personal flame, blending into the psychic background with everybody else. They are not even consciously aware of their own light or any other form of subtle energy. When you are aware of subtle energy and actively fan your own flame through magical practices, then your flame grows brighter. Activities such as regular ritual, using tarot cards, and daily meditation all expand our inner flame. This expansion of light attracts more attention, creating a beacon for those with the ability to see it, human and non-human. As you grow, for a while you will attract more attention. Often it is benign or neutral, but if you are perceptive, you feel a sense of presence. That sense of being watched can create an uneasy feeling. Then, as you grow, your light balances out. As you find your own true will, your true purpose, your light fills its place within the pattern of the universe. Unless parts of your purpose requires you to receive a lot of attention, your light fills in the spiritual background pattern and goes relatively unnoticed and untouched, only attracting the powers and people that will help you fulfill your purpose. Certain New Age philosophies are structured around a fear-based polarity, where the light is in a constant battle with the dark. They believe that the brighter your light shines, the more you will attract the forces of darkness and have to battle them. This is another rationale for the whole good versus evil, God versus devil argument that has no real place in magical work. I've had the honor of being among many people who are great spiritual lights, who go about their work with little drama or conflict. If you expect conflict, you will magically create it and receive it. If you expect and create peace, you will receive peace. Many practitioners in all traditions create conflict consciously or unconsciously as a way to feel more important in the grand scheme of things. But I've found that such individuals are not as important as those who create healing and peace from any conflict. As you claim more of your magical power, reflect on what you wish to create. Psychic dangers. When you are in need of protection, the dangers are not always what they seem, but the need for protection is still very clear. A person not involved in real magic, whose only knowledge of magic comes from Hollywood movies, would assume that the only time we need protection is to banish evil spirits or defend ourselves from a bad witch. But our potential dangers come in many forms. Though I am a huge proponent of ruling out all the most common forms of harm, most witches, myself included, are not Pollyannas about the existence of harmful spirits and people. Just because we don't believe in an ultimate source of evil, like the Christian devil, does not mean that people's strong intentions and beliefs have not created thought forms and constructs of evil, or that less than loving spirits don't answer to the various names of the devil to receive attention and energy from humans. But before you consider such esoteric possibilities, look for a simpler answer. There is a wide spectrum of forms of danger that are much more mundane. Here are some possibilities. Physical harm. Protection magic is very useful for protecting oneself from any type of physical harm. Some people focus their defensive magic on purely psychic dangers and never cast spells for physical safety. Spells can be used to protect the body as well as the soul. Protection magic doesn't block fists or deflect speeding bullets, but works in a subtle way, intuitively guiding a person out of the path of potential harm. If it is working, you will never know how, beyond the fact that you are safe from harm. Harmful energy. Harmful energy is a phrase I use where other people say negative energy. I don't use the term negative energy and strongly suggest that other people don't use it in ritual with me. Denoting negative with bad and positive with good is another polarizing New Age concept. Although the intention behind such words is clear, the literal meaning is not, since negative and positive refer to an electrical charge, and things like negative ions can be healthy for you. Anything that brings you out of balance is bad, but not necessarily negative. If it is something that causes harm, disruption, or imbalance, then call it harmful, unbalanced, or discordant energy. Harmful energy is not always conscious. Usually it is a very unconscious remnant from day-to-day living. Arguments, violence, grief, depression, stress, and illness can leave unbalanced energy in an environment that lingers, like dust balls under the bed. Most people don't know how to clean them up because they can't see them, so they remain there for quite a while. We all go through tough times, but if the feelings seem to linger, then perhaps it is the energy of the time that remains, even if the situation has resolved itself. Harmful energy can be found anywhere and can create situations that cause physical, mental, and emotional discomfort, from headaches and nausea to feeling trapped in emotional or mental patterns. Usually it is not a big deal to most people because they are so used to it. It's like living in a dirty house. Harmful energy is a problem for psychically sensitive people who lack control over their psychic abilities, leaving them open to the energy. It can also be a problem for magical practitioners, if not cleared up before doing ritual spells or psychic work. Harmful judgments. All thought is energy, and when someone directs a thought toward you, they are directing an energy. When someone thinks something, even without saying it, they can affect your energy, mood, and strength if you are not centered in your own power and sense of self. In class, I do exercises with groups to prove this, since most people don't believe it. I have one person come up to the front of the room, and we test that person's strength through traditional kinesiology, also known as muscle testing, a technique used in many holistic services. Muscle testing can be used to find out if a particular substance enhances or weakens an individual. First, we determine the person's baseline strength level, which we can then use to gauge if a new substance strengthens or weakens the person. The person holds out his dominant arm at a right angle from the body and attempts to hold it in place as I place pressure on it, trying to force it down. From this simple test, I can get an idea of the person's normal strength. Next, I have the person hold a substance in his non-dominant hand, usually pressing it up to his chest and letting its energy interface with his own personal energy. The substance can be anything from a crystal to an herb or vitamin supplement. I repeat the test by pressing down on the dominant arm and determining whether the substance increases or decreases the person's strength. If it increases his strength, then I would have him carry the crystal or take the supplement. If the test weakens his arm, then the substance is not good for him. Next, I have the rest of the group send strong thoughts to the person, cueing them silently through cards as to whether the thoughts should be complimentary or derogatory. When people think things like, "I love you," "You are beautiful," or "You are strong," the person, without even physically hearing these words, is strengthened. When the group thinks things like, "I hate you," "You are ugly," "You are weak," or any put down, the person's strength level grows weak. This change occurs without the person actually hearing a word. So when someone judges you in a non-constructive way, they may be sending harmful energy to you. This doesn't mean we should not judge or compare things in our daily life, but the spirit in which we do so plays a critical role. You can judge someone's work as faulty or dislike something about the person, but when you judge the entire person to be faulty or no good, you are potentially harming them. Name-calling is a form of psychic attack. Hatred, jealousy, and anger are also forms of psychic attack, even though they are often unintentional. We are not trained to realize that our words and thoughts have power. Harmful projections. Projections are like spells. Projection is the act, conscious or unconscious, of sending our energy into the future to manifest. Witches and mages choose to project consciously, through ritual and meditation, even if it is for something as simple as getting a parking space near the door. Most people, however, project thoughts unconsciously, and in a detrimental way to themselves and others. As an extension of harmful judgments, harmful projections are like judgments of the future. If you think to yourself that someone will never be successful, never be healthy, never find true love, or never amount to anything, you are sending out a harmful projection. Most people don't mean to do this. It's an unconscious aspect of our culture. But now we must become conscious. Again, the spirit in which the thought or word is projected is the most important thing. You can have discernment and explore possibilities without condemning another. The evil eye. No book on protection magic would be complete without a talk about the evil eye. My maternal grandmother was involved in folk magic and talked about how to cure the evil eye. I always thought it strange, since no one had really explained what it was. The evil eye was often blamed for anything that went bad by the older generations of my family. When you are raised in a culture, like many first and second generation Italian Americans, that understands and accepts such realities, then belief in the evil eye is more prevalent. Looking back on it, I started to think it was a part of the blame game and victim mentality I wanted my own family, students, and clients to break. But there is a sound metaphysical underpinning to the evil eye. From a shamanic or energetic point of view, the evil eye, which is literally directing harmful energy from your eyes to another's, sends a disruptive force into the spiritual bodies or chakra column of the victim, disrupting the line of connection between the personal self and the higher self and guides. If you are on the receiving end of the evil eye, your sense of protection and guidance from your spiritual allies is disrupted. Your intuitive awareness from these allies is temporarily dulled or blocked. You are not guided on your path out of harm's way, which makes you vulnerable to sickness, accidents, and a sense of misfortune from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Most practitioners of the evil eye don't have such a sophisticated understanding of the mechanics involved. They simply do it because they know it works. The evil eye is much like harmful judgments and projections, but it is a conscious and knowing projection of harm. It is when someone with a little knowledge and understanding knowingly wishes harm or bad luck upon a person or family, usually because they have an axe to grind. You could call this a curse, but I reserve that word for another category. If the evil eye is a curse, then it is usually a folk magic curse or an amateur curse, regardless of the sender's delusions of power and grandeur. More often than not, at least in modern Western culture, it is usually devoid of a belief in magic. The giver of the evil eye is cursing in fantasy, having no real solid belief that thoughts are energy and can affect another, but they still can. Time traps. Time traps are an extension of the evil eye by someone with a little more knowledge. Rather than projecting a vague wish for harm or bad luck, the user of a time trap has a specific harmful event they wish to create for someone and sends that thought out through words or visualization. Usually the victim's misfortune creates some sense of good fortune or well-being for the perpetrator. Again, like the evil eye, most people don't believe in the power of thought and intent, and such time traps are relegated to the realm of fantasy or malicious wishful thinking. But when you fantasize about the misfortune of others, you are still sending out psychic harm. Psychic vampires. A popular term in the New Age and occult worlds, a psychic vampire is one who drains others of their energy, vitality, and emotion. I hate the term, but feel compelled to use it so there is no misunderstanding. The phrase psychic vampire is used synonymously with energy vampire and spiritual vampire. The word vampire conjures up a dark, gothic image of one purposely going out and doing harm, a creature of evil. Most people who are categorized as psychic or energy vampires are not conscious of what they are doing and don't understand the mechanics involved, usually because they are raised in a world that doesn't understand or accept psychic energy. Most of these people are not in a place of spiritual health or power, and are often plagued with physical, mental, or emotional issues and depression.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?